Good evening and welcome to your Friday night podcast here on Four Lads Had a Dream. My name is Andrew and I'm joined tonight by two of my very favourite podders, Andrew Stewart and Calvin. How are you both doing? Are you excited? Are you happy? Are Rangers bringing all things joy to your life? Andrew, I'm going to start with you, mate. How are you doing after Rangers again shot themselves in the foot and leave themselves pretty much with an insurmountable mountain to climb before the end of this season?
You must be a millipede or something like that. The amount of times we shot ourselves in the foot, man. Honestly, it's getting ridiculous. I am noting that I feel a bit left out, although we're both Andrew and Calvin's not. Used to have both got hats on tonight. So
it
yeah,
is gimmick infringement for between me and Calvin, but you know, can you do it?
I'll stick my Detroit hat on.
There we go. Very good.
There we go.
Chicago, Detroit, and
49ers are requesting your location now that we've got two American sports teams that aren't San Fran, but yeah, sure.
Listen, until this fucking group lead us to a league title, I'll keep supporting other American teams, and there's nothing they can do about that, right?
Fair.
So yeah, Andrew, obviously the reaction to the Hearts game, you know, off the back of the Motherwell defeat as well, pretty much puts paid to any kind of leadership challenge. I'll obviously come to Calvin in a second and get his thoughts, but for me, it was disappointing. Not so much that it was unexpected, it was that I expected us to find a way to cock it up, and we still managed to do it. But crucially, just after we gave ourselves enough hope, just to really hurt ourselves, you know?
Yeah, and now someone that, if you remember back to Halloween, dressed up as Ted Lasso, the quote of it, him not believing it is the hope that kills you. It's at this point, if Ted Lasso was a Rangers fan, he would have completely taken that back, and it is the hope that kills you. The hope is there's been a mass casualty incident in terms of hope that's killed folk, because I think we've all been killed by it. Yeah, Rangers just incredibly finding ways to let us down when you think that they've turned the page and have found a new chapter in this book. But I mean, that's the, you know, I think I'd found in like one of the Snapchat memories or something like from years ago, and it was under I want to say it was maybe under Beale at the time, and I said that I want Rangers to lower my casket when I die so they can let me down one more time. I think that's a sentiment that's still here after all those years. So, well, we'll just have to see what Sunday brings, I suppose.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I think, Calvin, there's never any such thing as a meaningless old firm. And believe me, Rangers have contrived to find ourselves in situations where we've made them nearly meaningless. But nonetheless, still us against our biggest rivals. The motivation is clear. You know, you have it on the line to prevent, you know, to kill off Celtic's title challenge. It also is an opportunity to keep ourselves in the race, as extremely unlikely as it is. Hey, nothing ever ventured, nothing ever gained, right? But there should be more than enough motivation there to go on and put in a performance. But frankly, given the last two performances, it's more hope than expectation that this team can deliver when we go over there on Sunday.
Yeah, for the last 2 weekends, I've had two of the best weekends I've had this year, and then you get to the end of it, and Rangers do their usual. Sitting a bus back from Liverpool, half the bus filled with people for the other side. That was a great joy to come home to. Up at a festival last weekend, everybody comes home, buzzing, best weekend that you had. Go sit with my mates to watch the Rangers game. Absolute wreck the happiness out of everybody's life. And it's just what this team gives us now. Like, we get ourselves back in the title race. They seem to be a better chaser than they are somebody being in there and leader. And that's not the Rangers way. Roll talks about mentality and stuff like that, saying the team's mentality is fine. No, it's not. Like, we've sat there and watched it. Like, they can't deliver when the pressure's on. They can do it when they're 10, 15 points behind, when there's no real pressure. But as soon as it comes into the cooker, they're done. They just get totally burned every single time. Look at that performance against Hearts. The first half, you're going, they've controlled that game the way we'd expect them to. They've allowed the pressure that Hearts have put in. We've came out the second half. Every person watching that game knew exactly what's happening. We've controlled it. They're going to push everybody at the park, play 100 miles an hour. You can't just withstand pressure for that the full second half. And after the first 5 minutes, you just went, this is shit. these players are going to throw us under the bus. As soon as they scored, you knew it was happening because they couldn't get out. And we did nothing to change it. Rowe did nothing to change it. The players did nothing to change it. We can't just blame one man. There's far too many people involved in this now. You look at the way it came through, it was just long ball after long ball. They got us under pressure. We couldn't get out. What did we try and do? Pass it out for the back under a really tight press? It's going to catch up on you, especially when you don't have the best quality to deliver it. We bring on 3 strikers. What do? Start passing it side to side. Get the ball in the box, alleviate that pressure. Everything that happened last week wasn't good enough. But if you ask me if we're going to beat Celtic at the weekend, I'll probably still say aye, because I'm not allowing myself to say otherwise. But the players need to do everything they can for the fans now. We're in a position where, let's face it, titles not happening, very unlikely at the very best. But we can't risk finishing third. The way the third finishes in this league this season, you're going into the Conference League most likely. That's not the way we can deliver. It's not the way we can bring in recruitment for next year. Everything about it is massive. We need to deliver massively to try and get ourselves as far up this league as possible. Can the players do it? We'll see. We could probably go beat Celtic, beat Hibs, and then we'll go to Falkland the last of the season and shite the bed again, because it's the hope that kills us, ain't it? So let's see how this goes. Go out and get the 3 points on Sunday and deliver it for there.
The thing about that with the Conference League, just before we move on, is when you look at the teams in the Conference League, you love it. It's like you start from the bottom and you go, like Gibraltar's Premier League, a Bosnian team, and then you look further up and it's like Atalanta, and you're like, well, sweet, winning that. So even the Conference League doesn't seem very attainable when you look at some of the estimated pot placements in pot 1. I think we'd be pot 1, but the other teams in there, some names you probably don't want to mess about with, and especially I think will be Bournemouth or something around those kind of places, and the Prem will be in there as well. I don't fancy Rangers versus Bournemouth. I just have a feeling that we'd get prime bastard by the Cherries, and I'm not up for that, to be perfectly honest.
No, indeed. Listen, the only thing we can do is control what's in our own hands for this one, right? So it's crucial that we give ourselves as best chance as possible. We can't really influence what happens to the teams above us, with the notable exception of this game. So it has to start somewhere. You have to inflict a defeat, and then you see what happens. Can't control what happens with Hearts on Sunday, but on Saturday, sorry. But we know that Motherwell are, a threatening team. They demonstrate that against us. So, yeah, all we can do is keep plugging away. And frankly, as I said, I think the players owe us. Let's turn briefly, I think, to the discussion that's gone around the manager, because obviously in the aftermath of 2, I think, very damaging defeats, Andrew, there's always going to come scrutiny. Manager, as I've said before, is the person who is the easiest target, because they're the person you can most easily fire. The boards are entrenched. You are only going to get them out by buying them out. The players are on contracts, and it's very difficult to dislodge them as well. So the manager is the one that you can most easily get rid of. And I think it was inevitable that scrutiny was going to start coming his way. I don't think his record against top 6 clubs is anything to write home about. And I don't think his in-game management has been particularly great either. But I have to balance that against the fact that we looked at this squad in October and were saying quite comfortably, this is the worst Rangers squad I think I've ever seen, including some of the adventures in the lower leagues as well. It is a difficult situation because I'm not totally sure myself yet on where I fall with it. Obviously, depending on the result of the weekend, I could have my opinions very well crystallized by that. But it's a difficult one for me, because I cannot get away from the fact that this squad of players are far below the standards that we need for a Rangers team. And while we did manage to get ourselves into a position, we still never managed to go top of the league after the full weekend's round of fixtures were completed. And although we, for spells, managed to tighten up defence and improve the attack, we never really got both of those in sync. And we never really got a team that was consistently performing for 90 minutes. And it's difficult to know how much of that blame or credit you can lay at the foot of just Danny Rowe, because there's a squad of players there who, we made the point, are simply not good enough. So yeah, I don't genuinely don't know where I fall on that. And under previous managers that I've been able to tell you pretty confidently, like after about 3 games of Russell Martin, I was very confident in what I wanted to happen with that. With Danny Roll, I'm still less sure. But where are you sitting now, Andrew?
It's very difficult as a whole. I think I put in our group chat today something like it's happened again. You know, you can mark your calendar at some point, you know, that this is going to happen. There's going to be questions about the manager, and you find yourself potentially looking for, you know, a new manager in the tail end of a season, and you go through the motions of um, he needs a pre-season, he needs a summer window to bring in his players, get rid of the old wood, you know, the dead wood, and then contend in European qualifiers before the start of the season. Um, it's so difficult because we're having the same conversation we had when we knew. Well, I think everybody had a majority of it knew that Barry Ferguson was not going to get the job permanently. So you knew you had a bit of time in between the end of the season that who's it going to be? What direction are we going to go into? Ultimately, with the Russell Martin appointment, we did it wrong. We got that decision wrong, and credit to the ownership group and the board for admitting that they made the mistake on that one. With Danny Rule, it's very difficult to say how I feel about him because I think up until these last 2 games, there's been issues. I'm not going to say it's been a perfect run. There's been avoidable. That's hard to say. I think the 2 old firms back to back, if you win one of them, even just one out of the 2 of them, it relieves a tiny bit of pressure. If everything were to happen as it is now, at least winning one of those, maybe even the cup, give yourself a final to play for, relieves a bit of pressure. On him, I mean, not on the group of players because every game is important at Rangers. I'm not saying they get off free, but I think this kind of scrutiny is a wee bit calmer than it is. I think the talk of Wolfsburg, like I've always said, I think it's difficult for a manager whose family is not in the country. I mean, his family is back in Germany with his wife and his children or child. So that's, I always felt that wasn't going to be a tenable long term. I think we've seen the same with Gerrard, that it's quite a haul to go back and forth all the time for the family man. So there was always going to be questions about long term commitment. The fact that he mentioned his full focus still being on Rangers, I think Mark in my work said today, it's giving a little bit of the do I look happy? We don't ask silly questions in, which is slightly worrying. As someone that isn't thrilled with candidates named, I was, and you can check the tapes, I got behind Steven Gerrard again when everything looked like it was pointing in his direction. When Danny ruled himself out of the manager hunt the last time, and Kevin Muscat was not the option. And now we're back in the same boat of Gerrard, Muscat, they're the prime candidates. And do you just need to forget the last 4 months and pretend it didn't happen? And we're back in who's it going to be, Gerrard, Muscat territory? It's a tough time. And I'd much rather be sitting here, rolling into the last few games with 6 points in the first 2 games in the split, but this is the cards that have been dealt, and we just need to face it. I'm sticking by the manager. I think his January window had a profile of player on a permanent move, at least. I think Scott Wilson's been awful, but you didn't commit long term to that in terms of, I know that the loan to buy option was there, but you were banking on them winning the league. The Champions League money then pays for that if he has a brilliant loan spell, which he hasn't. So there's a flop, so to speak. You know, Naderi coming in, Romans coming in, Chiguani. That type of player that's played a lot of games at a relatively younger age, kind of physical players. But then you've had Robbins and Naderi injured, so there's been a shuffling of the pack still in some of these games. You know what I mean? That was Sterling, Giga, and Fernandez and Tav as your back line the other day. And we've seen Sterling at left back and under previous managers, I think back to old firms under Michael Beale, where Sterling's at left back and he's just getting pressured. And you know, I always said that he can do his cover, but he really can't be cutting it. And the Hearts was a big game with the way they play, energy, the forwards bring. It wasn't going to work, but it's dejecting is a nice way of saying this. But we found ourselves here again, lads.
Yep. I think what Andrew's talking about there, Calvin, for me is that, and like this is just from my perspective, I think if you do decide over this summer that Danny Roll is the man, then I think you stick with him and you give him the season. Like, we cannot be in October and get shot the manager and you have to rip stuff up again. If it's Danny Roll, then you give him that summer window. You give him the same level of backing that Russell Martin got, because Russell Martin spent plenty of our money in the summer, and I think got maybe 50% of it right. Not all the blame can be leveled at him. The previous director of football is probably also quite liable for some of the mistakes that were made in that. But yeah, I think if you do commit, then you commit full-heartedly. I don't think you can kind of half-arse it and, commit, but do a geo almost, where you say, oh yeah, no, thanks for getting us the European final, all that. Here's, the biscuit tin, and you can have like 2 pence to spend on people you don't really need. I think if you do commit, you have to commit full-heartedly, all the way. That's kind of where I'm at. But how are you feeling about the whole situation, Calvin?
It's mixed, to be honest, because the thing I looked at is when he came in, it was we'll get the team playing, we'll try and get the points, which we all agreed had to be the way forward.
Yeah.
But he's at that time now, is things better? That's where I asked myself, was it going to get much better with the squad that he still had at his hand? Because the players that he brought in were obviously picking up injuries and so on. So there's 2 ways you look at it. He goes, it was starting to get better, and the injuries caused us to go back with playing with the same players we were before, which is very unfortunate. But then you look at it, it goes, was the players that were the better of that bunch getting any better, or were we just falling at that same role before? It's tough. But I agree with what you're saying. If it is a matter of we're going with Danny Rule, you need to back him with the help. We need to look at that squad. It's something I ranted about in Fall a few weeks ago. It was to do with the inconsistency we're going to get for the level of player we've got. The average age of the squad is young. We don't have experience in terms of loads of matches across the different areas of the squad. We don't have those 7 out of 10 players that every week you can bank your hat on them. We've got an inconsistent squad due to the age restriction in it, essentially. Yes, they are good enough to play in big games and so on, but they're not good enough to play in 38 big games.
Yeah.
That's why we need to really look at the recruitment this summer. That's why I was really annoyed when you look at last summer, you look at Shankland, who will just play every single week and give you a good performance. Mulligan will just play every week and give you a good performance. Even you look at Graham at Dundee, these are the type of players you need, that kind of squad of the players that just come in. You know you're going to get a good performance out of them. You can put your hat on them. They'll be reliable. We don't have that in the squad. All the players, when you look to who you bring on another inconsistent player. That's where we're at. We need to just have a stability in the squad where it's a bank. And McCoy said it the other day, we need to get that kind of Scottish Rangers kind of background back in there where it's players that are going to fight for every bit on that jersey. You've got players who really, they'll say they understand what it means to play for Glasgow Rangers, but they don't. Nobody will ever understand what it takes to play for Glasgow Rangers unless you were born into it or you adapt into it very, very quickly. And often then you still need those few guys in the squad that gets you right on the nail and they hit you. This is what it means. You're not allowing this team to go down the gutter. Too many players just don't have that mentality, and it's something that needs addressed. And it can be in the coaching staff where they had like a Stevie Smith in there. It'd be great to have a Stephen Davis or a Kevin Thompson in there as well, who could really help and mould that into them. But we need it in the squad. You had your Alan McGregors, we had the Davis and that under Gerrard, your Ryan Jacks, things like that. Just boys that understood what it meant. Right now we have Connor Barn, and pretty much only Connor Barn because Souttar's kind of not really doing that type of thing. So we need to have that alongside the manager. So if you are going with Danny Rule, you need to get that DNA back into the team. And it's getting talked about year after year after year. And folks say, oh, it's modern football, you don't need it. No, we certainly do need it. And they prove it every single year that it's more and more important each and every single time.
Yeah. I'm always going to point to the fact that, listen, Scottish League's a weird league, man. Like, it's an odd ball. It is not the English Premier League. It's far from it. And there is weirdness and quirks to this league that I don't think you fully understand unless you've been raised in that environment, if you've grown up and experienced this league. And we've seen even players who have played in it previously who have then come back, like Bojan Miovski, who, for whatever reason, have not really figured it out. So I do think, to your point, Calvin, that's absolutely right. I do think that you need to introduce some of that mentality I know Danny Rowe hates to hear that word, but listen, until the teams start delivering, then it's going to keep getting leveled at you. You've got to deliver some way or another. So, yeah, well, that's where we found ourselves, Andrew. You know, we're going back into a summer where we know there's going to be disruption. We've got something like 15 players who are on loan at the moment, all of whom will be going. Certainly, I don't think, with the probable exception of Mikey Moore, we'd be looking to keep any of them. And the Mikey Moore one's more hope than expectation. Entirely dependent on where Spurs end up, obviously. And so, yeah, we know that it's going to be a rebuild, but we're not there yet. We still have these 3 games left to play for, and that's going to start with the Old Firm this weekend on Sunday at high noon. Do have a brief statement that Stevie has asked me to pass along. Club support guidance that was issued by Rangers earlier today. Essentially, the gist is if we trash Parkhead, if we try and inflict some retribution on their pit, then we'll foot the bill for it. Rangers as a club will foot the bill for it. Now, I know, obviously, we are a better fan base than their lot are. We don't have to be told not to go in and trash their place and treat it with the same level of disrespect. We're going to go there, we're going to calmly brush them aside as a team and walk away with the 3 points, and that'll be fine. But that's the message that's come out from the club, that fans need to be on behaviour. And I think that was always going to be the case. There is always going to be extra scrutiny on the fans, especially after the whole palaver about who was going to be allowed in to support them. So, yeah, it is what it is. But into this game, Andrew, obviously it's going to be a massive one. They always are. How are you looking to line up for this one? Just an easy one, mate. Just an easy one.
I'll take. I'm going to go with Butland again, as always. And there's a whole point in Butland that I'm sure we could go on about who stays and who goes. And I think we do need to have a proper chat about going in a different direction with goalkeeping from the start, from the window. I think it needs to be a dead cert that if we're going to continue to be, or even in the worst possible case, be a team that can take a throw in 18 yards from their byline and it somehow end up back at a goalkeeper's feet to distribute again, then you need to have somebody that can kick the ball better than Butland. And I hate that I say that because I love Jack. I think his spell as a Rangers goalkeeper, he's suffering from the "you're not Griggsy" syndrome, and it's difficult, and it's always going to be difficult to follow in the footsteps of Alan McGregor. Some really brilliant moments. Penalty shout Europa League to win us, then gets through against Josie's Fenerbahce. Stood tall. He's made some big saves. He's made some big blunders. I think it's just as it is for a lot of players in the team. A time for some freshness to be added to this club, some new faces, some new energy, some removing of scar tissue potentially. But for now, Jack Butland still has to be between the sticks. If Tua Romans is fit, he plays every game from now until the end of time, in my opinion. He's a player that is the player in the profile I was saying with Danny Rowe's recruitment. A lot of games for him in Belgium. Again, we can't be buying guys that have played hundreds of Premier League appearances down south, Champions League regulars, with cupboard full of trophies and Champions League winners' medals. That's just not how it works. But if you can get guys that have played consistently week in, week out, can handle our schedule and tempo, hopefully, then you can bring them to Rangers and really start to grow them and nurture them to be proper players that you can utilise in our big games in our season. And I think Romans has shown that. Fitness and injuries is always the thing. When he came to Rangers with a niggle from his end of his season, or a break in their season, and then obviously get injured recently. Only made the bench against Hearts, but if he's fit and they think he can play 90, then play him. And even if he can't play 90, I still think he should have played against Hearts. As I said, Sterling at left back, isn't tenable, especially not in an old form. I don't think it works. You can make an argument for Sterling potentially at centre back, and that could maybe work better. But in this case, with Mane and Nasser, I wouldn't break it at the minute. It's strange because there is a feeling that those two are stronger, but it's the games where they are in. We seem to ship some strange goals. But then you play Suter and it doesn't really fix it. So it's really strange how that works. Whether you make the argument for Sterling at right back potentially instead of Tav. Tav, since he's started games in the last couple of weeks, sore defeats, but I don't think he's been to blame particularly, or majoritively, and he wasn't the single worst player in either of those games. I know you can make arguments till the cows come home about, is that his man when Kingsley scores, or is it Olsen's man, or is it just poor shape as a whole? But you can't win a war with an anti-Tav person. We've seen this for how many years now. So for legs and the way that Celtic attackers are gifted with pace, I would play Sterling, just for that kind of just covering yardage. Tav can be useful, can bring him on in the second half of deliveries just to keep the balls consistent going up their end. It's going to be a game where Dio needs to have a European performance. I think he had a great 45 minutes at Tynecastle. I wouldn't change Dio and Raskin. You maybe make the argument for Chugwani to come out for Barron. I don't think Barron's did too much wrong, apart from get injured, and there's really little you can do about that. And he always seems to have the bit between his teeth in these kind of old firm games. Front three, I think the Scott Olsen experiment has to stop. I've defended him to the hilt. You can check back on that post back on Spain, the Spain trip. I was saying I would have played them against Motherwell, started them. Hope he would have found that tempo that the rest of the attackers are playing on, and he hasn't. So he has to come out. Gassama, I think he has talent, but we're yet to see it consistently. So that's up to the manager. I love Mikey Moore to bits. He's got all the talent in the world and he'll go far in the game. But it hasn't really contributed consistently in the last couple of games either. He gets the ball and he drives the ball a lot. But I can't tell you how many times I said, just play it off, Mikey. You've taken it by 3. Just pass it before you get halved by the 4th. Ironically, the only person that I'm dead set on starting is Chimity. After all this time and how this season has gone, the last 2, 3, 4, 5 games he's played, I went, big lad's had a good performance, he's put in a good shift. And with his previous outing at Parkhead, I'd take him to find the net again. But don't ask me about the final score. I don't want to answer that question.
Listen, especially if we're starting Chimity up top, it could be absolutely anything, pal. Calvin, where are you at in terms of the lineup? Andrew, I think named about 15 different ones that you could have, but yeah.
Who knows? Butland's kind of goals. I think it'd be harsh to throw Liam Kelly in out of the kind of wilderness completely into a game like that. Although keepers do it, it's probably the last thing they'll be looking to do, to be honest. I'm still going to have right back because he's the one that gets his chances. His delivery's probably the best in the team. We've seen it time and time again. You take him out of the team and things just don't work. And for everybody that talks about the captain, he seems to get players around him in a better shape. We've seen his collapse a lot more when he's not been in the team. So that's what I'm going with it. And if anyone wants to argue about it, Barron, I'm not going to argue back. I'm going Sterling at centre half. I've talked about it 100 times, especially when me and you have been on Andrew in the Friday nights. Sterling at centre half, you get so much more out of him. He's aggressive, he's athletic, he can make the pass out for the back, and he is tend to be switched on. The biggest thing I have with Giga and Fernandes right now is that both of them are very laid back. And there's times where that can be fine, but in a game like this, that cannot happen. And if, again, they did have kind of spells in the games at Ibrox where they were switched on fully. But for me, I'm going with Fernandes and Sterling as my centre halves. Left back Romans has to be Romans all the time. It has to work. And there's a comment straight away. Have you seen us with a set piece stress? We've been crap for set pieces for weeks, so it probably makes no difference, mate. So we go with that. The midfield 3, we're going with. It's hard to change. I would love Connor Barron to come back in, but are you breaking up that 3? They had a great first half against Hearts. It's something in the big games. It tends to be one of our better parts of the team. Is that midfield 3? Diamande tends to do his best kind of games when he's under pressure a lot. But with Diamandi, as we all know, he's got that wee rash minute in his head where you just go, why have you just done that? That is absolutely mental. And he will probably do that
for a yellow card, Calvin. Is that
Oh,
what you're telling
definitely.
me?
That's the first thing on your kind of bet builder is
Yeah.
Diamandi, yellow card, and probably Raskin as well because he just loved it.
Oh yeah,
That's a good two. That's a good kind of boost on your bet builder if you put the two in.
Don't put my head on for a yellow. You never guess those.
Oh, but you could probably put one for 13 fouls.
Yeah.
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
true.
So that's a good one. 13 plus fouls, no bookings. That's a good one for that. So I'd probably just go with the same midfield three. I like Chucky. I like Nico. I think Dio. It's just how you influence them in the team. We can't just have them just drifting about. You need them to be aggressive coming back and aggressive going forward. And it's something that we noticed against Motherwell. It was when it was a 2, it was just jog back in. This game is 100 miles an hour, and you need the players to be chasing in, chasing out, getting back into shape, but also giving you something on the breakthrough forward. And it just that you have that front three. Chermiti and Moore's guaranteed to win the team for me. It would be nice for Moore to have a little bit of support. I think that's something that people are forgetting when he isn't laying it off. There's nobody near them half the time. Like, it is so stretched. Chermiti's pressed up the park. Moore's running through 10 guys to try and get the ball to Chermiti, who's on the shoulder. There's that kind of just lack of kind of teamwork, pushing it together. And I think that comes down to they need to work harder for each other. They just get caught back too much and then they don't press up. Right-hand side, it's not Scott Wilson. Like, I could have pulled my hair out on Monday. I'd have been totally gone by then. I'd have been the Stevie, Kenny and Davey team by the end of that 45 minutes if I had my way, because I was just sick of him. He's safe, but safe isn't good enough. Like, he gets the ball and lays it back 10 yards. We need our wingers to deliver. Who do we go in the right-hand side? It can't, for me, it just can't be him. Could it be an Anton coming out? We have that. Like, we used to love that, an Old Firm special. A player just comes out of nowhere. Like, it used to be a Hamid Namucci, Charlie Adam for a good spell. Like, they would just come out and they would just...
Who's on for one game?
Yes. Like, just... We love a surprise in these games, especially when it's away from home. So could it be Ant-Man that comes out of nowhere and it gives you that option? Does that allow you to swap the two? Gassama, I think he would probably just kind of... Gassama, we know that he's got ability, but does he have the mentality to play at Parkhead in a game like this?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think Ant-Man doesn't require to have as much because his game comes down to work effort. So if he can get you up and down and get you a little bit of delivery that way, it's something different. But it could be one of them. Like, I don't think there's... We could sit here and you could say Gassama, you could say Ant-Man, you could say Bajrami, you could say Scott Wilson. You'll end up being the staunch Stonner by the end of it when Derry coming up to play with them. There's that many different options. But I think as a 10, that's a 10 I would go with there. Right-hand side depends whether he goes the 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3 style, or if he goes for the 4-2-2. Could be anything, but it can't be Asgard. That game, far too fast for him. We've seen it the last time at Parkhead.
Yeah, absolutely.
Too quick. And it's one of the things I've felt with Asgard. When it is these high-tempo games, everything happens too fast for him and he gets lost. And then he goes into a silly challenge, which puts us on the back foot as well. So, for me, kind of got to gamble on Ant-Man. I think it's a chance for somebody that's been getting themselves back fit, has certain attributes that work. Go for it for them. So, a bit out of the blue, but probably Ant-Man for me, just because we've tried everything else.
Well, exactly, yeah. I mean, you know, if you keep trying the same stuff, then, you know, it's the
definition of insanity. So, may as well try something new.
Yeah, I mean, why not? You know, nothing left to lose, right? You can only gain. So, got to
go
go for it, right?
so we can get his Marvel character out.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, folks, I mean, it's never fun, but we always want to give you guys something to watch on Fridays, and I want to thank my two lovely co-hosts for giving up their Friday evenings. Calvin, I know, is still recovering from his excursions, but always appreciate you both coming on. So, Calvin, I want to thank you very much, my friend. Appreciate you coming on.
Thanks very much, mate, and stuff it. Keep believing. We've still got 3 games to go. We've got a chance. Win the next 2. See how it takes us. There we go. I knew I'd be back into the team. We're going to win the league by the end of this.
There we go. We love the optimism. I wish I could believe it, but, you know, hey, get the win on Sunday, and who knows? Make a Marvin Andrews out of me. Andrew, I want to thank you, my friend. Last minute volunteer, but I appreciate you coming on as ever. And yeah, thank you again, man.
I'm happy that Calvin's going for optimism there, because it usually is me that sees the good when it is not there. And Rangers let me down even more. You mentioned the Marvin Andrews keep believing, and it's just reminded me that we did such a brilliant tifo
Yeah.
and they cocked it up.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating because if that tifo was there and we were on to win the league, it would be like, stick that up in the club museum with an information piece. Rangers then went on to scud the rest of the league in the last couple games and lift the trophy, and we didn't.
Yeah.
So, yes, roll on Parkhead. Fans, do your best to be on your best behaviour. It would be lovely if we could sweep them off the park. We take 3 points, laugh at them, and they'll have nothing to complain about. You know, that would be ideal. So yeah, I think if we can just, you know what the papers are going to be like, you know what their media circus will write up if we're not on best behaviours. So one game, get behind the team, and that's all we can do. So yep, roll on Sunday.
Thank you for your enthusiasm and optimism there, Andrew. Definitely believed it. I will say, I'll echo your comments as well. It is important that we don't give Celtic any ammo. I know that it's them. They'll complain about the fact that we played in blue, if nothing else.
Yeah.
So, there will be something, but at the very least, we can avoid giving them the bullets to shoot us with. So, folks, as ever, we appreciate you coming on. It is what it is. The Rangers, will always bring us down, but we're going to keep plugging away. We'll keep doing our thing, and we can only hope that the players do the same for us. So we'll have some kind of reaction, I believe, after the game on Sunday, and then back into the swing of things Monday, where the games are going to come thick and fast. Season's nearly done, so let's hope Rangers can finish out on some kind of high at least. The title might be unlikely, but it's not impossible yet. Thank you as ever for joining us. We truly appreciate your support. I thank everyone for watching. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And until we talk to you again, folks, bye for now.
The Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clydeview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.